thanks all very much. So thanks also to the team at the Future Forum for inviting us, the Nature Conservancy, to speak to you today. A little background, the Nature Conservancy is a global nonprofit. We're one of the largest environmental nonprofits on the planet, actually. We have over 5,000 employees, over 400 of which are scientists. And we work along 3 areas. So our focus areas are around tackling climate change, protecting land and water, which is actually how we started. So we started around land conservation. And one of the latest additions to the work that we do is around providing food and water sustainably. And it's in fact on this global team that I sit. I'm the Director of Agriculture Innovation for our global food and water team. And specifically, I manage a pool of venture capital that we're investing in early stage companies we hope will help us with one of our priorities, which is this priority in the middle, restoring degraded land. So the specific focus again is on building up of soil health, but other critical members of my team are focused on protecting habitat, securing fresh water, and natural climate solutions. And when we look at, I'm gonna hold, there we go. We have a team actually. We have both in the United States, which is where my work is currently focused. We have a national team that's working on the science behind how we're actually need to be developing soil health. We have a team that's focusing on building up the economic evidence around the importance of building up soil health. And we also have a team that works on policy. As Tina mentioned several times, government is absolutely critical and can't be left out of the equation when you're talking about sustainability and driving change. And so we have a team that works across all of these areas. And we also have a very audacious, let's see, my slide doesn't, there we go. We have a pretty audacious soil health goal. So we'd like to see widespread adoption of adaptive soil health systems on more than 50% of US cropland by 2025. That's a really aggressive goal, and we're less than 10%. As of February last year, we're at less than 10% of that goal. And so it became kind of an urgent call around how we are going to get there. How will we actually move the needle on that critical goal? And that's where I was actually brought in to figure out how we can potentially leverage technology and early stage companies and the entrepreneurial environment to, oh, sorry, Juan, I'm getting some background noise. I don't know if everyone is on mute. Oh, there we go, perfect, thank you. I have these new AirPods and perhaps they're very sensitive. I think they are. So what I've been brought in to do is manage a pool of venture capital that we're looking to invest in early stage companies we hope will get us to the solutions that will accelerate the adoption of soil health farming practices, which as the Nature Conservancy thinks about sustainability or even regenerative agriculture, which is a new kind of popular term, at the root of whatever you want to call it, sustainability or regenerative agriculture is in fact soil health. And that is absolutely the pillar on which we must build for a sustainable farming systems and food systems, frankly. So why are we investing in Agritech? So it is around kind of 2 key principles is influencing investors. So by actually sitting at the investor table, it gives us a really unique perspective to support the early stage technology and solutions that we're really interested in seeing scale. And then also, use that to also influence other investors and then who are already in the space, but perhaps investing in solutions that we don't believe are going to give the triple win that Tina mentioned, right? For both farmers, consumers, and the environment. And then also it's about raising awareness for non-traditional agriculture investors. So we're starting to see a lot of interest from folks who historically haven't really paid attention to agriculture are now interested in agriculture. And so that's another one of the objectives that we have is to raise awareness in this space. And then there's something unique about supporting early stage agritech. It has a bigger picture footprint. So while the dollars are actually very small compared to, say, the R&D budget of Syngenta or John Deere, the footprint or the influence that early stage companies have is much larger than just that dollars. They can really influence behavior change with the other players, which is very exciting. And another reason that we're looking at agritech and early stage solutions to get to our goal. So the 4 things that we're looking for agritech solutions to scale are cover cropping, increased rotations, minimal till, no-till farming operations, and input optimization. So these are the 4 things. It's not the case that necessarily they're right for every farming operation, but these are what, and again, we have a team of scientists that have looked at what are the core elements to building adaptive soil health systems, and these are absolutely part of those systems. And so we are looking to identify investment opportunities to scale one or a multitude of these practices. So just getting some ideas around, what this looks like. So from a cover cropping perspective, what we're potentially looking at is, can we identify early stage, alternative planting solutions that are planting. So in the US, again, we have if we want to move the needle on soil health in the US, we have to look at corn and soybean acreage, which is some of the largest volume of acreage in the United States. And so cover cropping in those acres has not taken off as we would have expected. And one of the constraints is, in fact, that planting windows are shrinking post-harvest. And so it's becoming harder and harder for farmers to actually get their cover crop seed in the ground. And so what we're thinking about is, can we support, or is there an alternative planting solution that is actually planting your cover crop seed with your corn and soybeans at the same time, but at a deeper depth, so that you have delayed germination? Or potentially, and we are actually in discussion with Syngenta that Tina mentioned, around delayed germination seed coatings for cover crops. So again, you're able to plant your cover crops earlier, but their germination is delayed, and therefore you're able to harvest what's in the ground in a minimally viable cover crop, and you don't have to battle what climate change is producing, which is shorter and shorter post-harvest planting windows. And then who knows, perhaps there's another solution that we haven't even considered that we could be using to move the needle. Around increased rotation, we're looking to invest and identify opportunities where folks are designing alternative soil health building crops. And this could also include, what's needed to support increased rotation is value-added processing and logistics. So, are there folks that are working on new technology and innovation around processing that's closer to the farm gate and that can add value to the farm, or also logistics that are helping with aggregating higher premium commodity crops or crops in general. Also, we need to have market development, so solutions that can help. We've seen a lot of this, but it's further downstream and still closer to the consumer. But are there solutions that we can invest in to help connect the farmers and market opportunities, or the consumer packaged good companies? And then another critical piece is actually digitization of seed performance. So again, we've mentioned Syngenta, but there's actually very little competition in the seed space. And so is there a way to bring, with technology, alternative ways of analyzing seed performance and bringing more transparency around the origin of seed and by geography performance? This is also very critical for specialty crops, what in the US we call specialty crops. So it's more of the seed, vegetables, fruit, and other specialty grains, because again, the majority of our production is very much focused on corn and soybean, which is going to mostly feed and fuel, and not direct for human consumption. So digitization of seed performance is very important for more of those food crops. because there's very little transparency today. And then minimal till, no till. A real challenge here is just the reality of weed pressure. And we actually see this quite a bit in organic operations. There's kind of a halo around organic, but unfortunately, it's not a perfect solution in terms of always being the best footprint for the environment. And one of the critical issues is weed control. And so could we invest in new agritech solutions for weed control? So perhaps it's more equipment that actually can be doing weeding at a precision level. We've seen John Deere actually acquired an early stage company 3 or 4 years ago now that is doing see and spray. So something where you're really getting targeted spray. And then for some of the smaller scale crops, we could also see about electrification as something that's being invested in. But how can we invest and bring some of those solutions to life for scale? And then input optimization. So this is absolutely, actually Tina highlighted it with the drone example. There is tremendous value in getting timely field by field soil health data so that you can actually be optimizing your inputs instead of just doing a blanket application, because in the end, that's still actually a more financially viable thing to do, but is not necessarily, because you don't know what the outcome is, but it's not necessarily the best thing for the environment, again, we don't know it totally, but farmer profitability. Another critical piece here is cost-effective equipment to implement precision application. So again, Tina mentioned this with the drone example. We don't yet have equipment that is cost-effective for farmers at a very large scale to be able to go in and perform precision agriculture, which requires would require additional passes through the field. And the equipment today, so for example, John Deere, I worked for John Deere for almost 10 years. They're really focused on developing bigger and bigger equipment. Well, that's very costly and challenging to get into the field for multiple times during the season for both fertilization or herbicide or pesticide application. And so really looking at how we can develop equipment solutions that are cost effective for actually implementing precision agriculture. And then when you're looking at input optimization, it's also solutions that are getting after optimizing irrigation. So there's also a lot of opportunity around irrigation. And then kind of circling back to all of these, you have solutions like what Tina mentioned with a fintech solution. So Syngenta partnering with insurance to de-risk. That is also a critical opportunity for all of these, because when we're asking farmers to shift their production, their traditional production practices, it's risky. And so what we're also looking at, are there creative financial, what we call fintech solutions for de-risking that change. And so that's another kind of solution that we would be looking for, is something that can help de-risk one or a multitude of these practices that we know have to be adopted for healthy soil, farming with healthy soil systems. And that was it for my presentation. I actually went very fast, I guess. Yeah, so, and at the core, what the Nature Conservancy is trying to do is work to create a world where people and nature thrive together. So again, appreciate everyone listening in on your holiday, and look forward to your questions.